What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning back into another video. The last one we started designing the intercooler and tanks for our turbo Acura Integra right there. Pretty much done with the design. On one side I already made the tanks itself. I'm going to weld on the actual pipe right now to connect that to the turbo itself. Let me show you real quick what we're working on. Okay, so starting with the hot side, basically the design that we had in the last video is pretty much what we kept with. We ended up welding both the inside and the outside. Outside wasn't as nice. Inside is pretty hard to weld in because, let me show you my torch for the welder. It's the long back piece where the tungsten actually sits inside of. I don't have a stubby kit yet, like the small tungsten to go into there. I have to get one of those so I can get better access inside and get nicer welds. But on the outside, it's okay. It's nothing special, but it's better than not having anything, you know? As for where it goes to the turbo, I cut this scrap that I had laying around. This is a 2.5 inch pipe. It has already a bead roll on it, so it's gonna be perfect. I also marked right there exactly where I want it, and that was measuring 1 inch in right there, another inch in right there, plus the 2.5 from this is the 4.5 inch core right there, the width. And right now I have it moved around because I was just marking this, but we have it about 2 3/4 inch from the weld on the traction bar to the actual intercooler on both ends of it. When I actually start mocking everything up. That way it's nice and even. It's not going to be directly centered because the manifold doesn't let it be centered since it is a forward facing, but we are able to get it the same, like parallel to the traction bar, have it nice and parallel right there. So we're going to have it somewhere around right there once it's actually in place. That being said, this end tank right there is just being held on by some tape. You can take it off. And like I mentioned, the inside welds are nowhere near as good as the outside ones, but it is a means to an end. That's definitely not going to be blowing out. The welds on the outside came out a lot nicer though compared to those. And given that I'm still learning TIG, pretty happy with it. Oh well, so yeah, I'm going to set this up real quick. I'm going to first hit it with my automatic punch. It's a spring-loaded punch. Goes like this and leaves a little mark. And then from that, I have my hole socket. These are actually for wood, so it's definitely not what you want to use on this. It's kind of like a one-time use when you use the wrong one, but it's what I have at the moment, so we're just going to go ahead and run it. Just very simple. I'm going to make the hole in the center. Then with this, actually hole saw it. Once that's all cut and cleaned off, I can actually use acetone, clean it up and everything, and then weld this right out here, and we'll have this ready to go. I don't think I'll weld the actual end tank to the core itself yet today, just because I'm still waiting on the plates to come in so I can do the other side. And once I have everything all in place, and I'll tack it up, take the core off, and then weld it. I wanted to get this done today though, that way I could already start mocking up this side. The intercooler piping will be done, essentially, since there is no piping for the hot side. And then we can get to designing the rest of the cold side piping, which is what we're gonna be doing this afternoon. But first, let's start off with this. Right there, one. I like to do like 3 or 4 times. I'm gonna give it a nice little pilot hole first. All right, got this drilled out, nice and clean. This fits very snug into there. Oh, right there, it holds it on by itself, you can see. It's almost a perfect fit. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clean all this off with acetone, get it nice and prepped. Same goes for this, gonna get it spotless. Then I'm gonna just tap it in with a little hammer, then mock it up onto the car, make sure it's the right exact angle that I need, and then I'll go ahead and weld that all around. All right, got it tapped into pretty much how I like it. You can see it's almost flush right there. There is a little bit less gap on this side than there is on that side, but that's well within the necessary clearance and whatnot. And you can see it's almost flush on this. There is just a little bit of a higher spot on one portion, just so it's at the right angle. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack this on, make sure that it doesn't shift or anything. I'm gonna do 4 tacks, 1 on each corner right there. And then once that's all good, then I'll go ahead and weld it all around. All right, I'm gonna tack it on the inside, that way it doesn't interfere with my weld once I get it on the outside. Right there, no filler. No filler. No filler. Alright, I got 4 tacks on there, all of which have no filler. Just to get it into the spot that it needs to be. Alright, so we have that pretty much mocked up right there. Kind of happy with how it came out. There were some spots that I went over again, like right here. I'm sure it was welded on the inside and wouldn't do anything, but there was a small pinhole, so I kind of went over it again. And I went too much on the pipe, not as much penetration onto the actual the plate right there, but it came out okay. Still happy with that. Now I'm going to start on the piping. Like I said, the plate comes in tomorrow to do the rest right there. But I'm still gonna do the piping that goes right here. So I'm gonna do a straight section right there, and a 45 and a 45. All right, we got that pipe right there, tack welded on. And then I'm gonna start with the downwards right there. You can see it's not perfect in the sense of where it lines up, but it's the beauty of pipe cuts. We'll be able to like kind of maneuver it that way. Or I might even just be able to cut an angle at this pipe and have it aimed upwards or something. We're still playing with the idea, so we'll see. Let's see how it goes. 2 different ideas. I have the straight piece off of there. I actually cut it at an angle now. I also have another bead rolled area right there with like a 45 and like a 30 right there. And what I'm doing right now is I'm going to kind of mock it up like this, and then I have a straight long piece cutting right there with 2 angles on it. So then I can kind of mock it up and have a straightish piece right there instead of doing a hard 90 and a hard 90 in. So kind of playing with it right now. Let's see once this one gets done cutting. And yeah, we'll go from there. All right, so I just tacked on a couple pieces right here. I skipped it because you guys saw that in the last video. I noticed a couple people mentioned about why I was tacking with filler rod. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. I'm still learning in the sense of like figuring out all the settings, but I'm not sure if there's a certain way that I should be tacking aluminum rather than steel. For example, stainless steel, I would just do a tack without any filler and it'd be perfect on there. On these, I'd get some tacks that were okay and then some tacks that were cracking right after it would cool down. So I got to see exactly like some settings to play with. So like I mentioned, guys, I'm always saying I'm not a fabricator. I'm just a kid learning in his garage. And I got these tacked on right there. The angle for the straight piece actually changed a little bit. And I had to play with that a little bit just so I can get it exactly to where I want to line it up. One thing that I do regret, well, not exactly regret, but one thing that I wish I could change, I'd probably bring the intercooler about ½ an inch this way, cut down that tank, and then redo that end tank. I'm not going to, but if I were to do it again with this manifold and this intercooler setup, that way I could comfortably have this somewhere in the center. Not that it's off-centered right now, it's just, I could probably even bring it in a little bit. I don't know what I'm worried about. But the pipe actually comes down, and then I have to do a little bit to the left. It's not that big of an angle, but you'll probably notice it once I post it on. I'm going to go ahead and test fit that just so I can show you and see what you think. Yeah, I got this side and half of that done. I just have a little bit to finish right there. And I set the torch down, and it hits my sweatpants or my gym shorts or whatever. Yeah, melted all on the cup. That's disappointing. But I'm about halfway done, maybe not halfway, maybe like a third of the way done with the whole cold side. So I'm pretty happy with it, and it's coming out pretty good. Can't complain. I mean, I'm no professional or nothing, but I can still see where I'm messing up and where I need to work on, but I feel like I'm getting into that groove. And this right here, I'm gonna take the tungsten out, clean the tungsten, and I don't know if I can clean the cup or something, but we'll see. It's time to probably. So ghetto enough, as you guys know me, I just cleaned it off instead of actually changed the cup. But it's perfect on there. It was welding good. I tested on this piece right here without a problem. And I went ahead and finished the last 3 on the bottom half welds. And so these 3 are completely welded all around. They are done. I'll just go over them very closely afterwards to make sure that there's no little cracks or any pinholes or anything. Just so I can double check, since I'm still learning. I want to make sure that I did everything right and whatnot. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 welds left to do on the top of the cold side. And then the cold side piping will be done. After that, all I'm waiting for is for tomorrow for the actual plating to come in. That way I can get this exactly how it needs to be. And then I'll perfectly position that part the bead rolled pipe off of the intercooler to how it needs to fit, just so it'll fit like that, nice and snug. All right, so here's the final look of it. Pretty happy with how it came out. No professional, just kid learning in his garage. What do you guys think? Please let me know down in the comments what you think. This was the hardest one just because I had welded from this portion up, so this got the most retained heat in it. But I think it came out pretty good. I gotta tell you, wiping it really good with the acetone really helped a lot. Let me see if I still have the rag that I used. I think it was the blue one. So this was already a clean pipe. And look at all this. You see this right here? You can barely see anything, but that's just like grease and like little scraps of the aluminum residue. And that was all that I took off of the pipe. And it welded a lot better after that. And I'm pretty stoked with how it came out. Obviously, it's still with a bunch of slack in it since it's only bolted up on one side and there's no mounting buttons or anything right here yet. This is just kind of like a quick preview of what it's gonna look like. Obviously, I still have to weld the end tank right there, put the coupler on right there, make the end tank on this side, and then have this exactly how I want it. But you can see with slight modification, we're gonna get that flush. I'm just gonna cut the angle a little bit on this, or just rotate it a little bit once the end tanks are made, and then get that to fit nice and flush with the pipe that comes right there. So you can see it's not too far off right there, and I still have plenty of extra pipe just in case. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and use this coupler that I already had, and it's just gonna sit like that, really nice and simple. But man, not to toot my own horn like I've already said, but this is looking pretty good. And we have a fresh sheet of aluminum, 6061. This is 1/8 of an inch thick, 0.125. Ordered that on Amazon Prime. It took 2 days to get here. 45 bucks or 44 bucks, something like that. Really simple, you know, really easy to use. And yeah, we're gonna start making some plates out of this. I already had this like designed or whatever you wanna say, with the measurements as well on there. So I'm just gonna take this off, trace them out, cut them out, and double check my measurements and whatnot, and go from there. First 2 cuts are done. Here's the original measurement for reference. 11 3/4 on one corner, or on one side, 6 1/2, 6 1/2, and then 5 across the top. That's gonna sit like this if you're looking at the front of the core. You guys have seen how it looks before. I went ahead and cut those out. The problem with how I've been cutting it, I'm using these cutting discs. They're aluminum oxide, so they're not like contaminating it really. Anyways, I'm using the aluminum belt sander afterwards to get it nice and clean before it welds. But what I'm trying to say here, that's a very rough, jagged cut. It's basically comparing like when you're cutting piping, the rough cut of a chop saw versus a jigsaw, or a bandsaw, excuse me. Bandsaw just makes it so much cleaner. Unfortunately, I don't have a setup to cut plate that nice, but we're doing what we can. One little tip that I did since I'm doing this at home, I got the rough measurements traced out on the pieces of aluminum. Then once I was done with that, I clamped the aluminum 2 pieces together, and then I cut the excess. This is, you can see an excess that was on one of them because they weren't exactly the same. Then after I cut that, I still had them clamped together, put them together on the belt sander, and then individually cleaned up all sides of it with the belt sander, got it nice and smooth. So it is not perfect. It's not like if it was laser cut by a big CNC machine or a water cutter, whatever you want to call it. But it is really, really close, and I'm pretty stoked with it. Actually, this side came out closer than the other side came out because I didn't clamp this side together. I kind of just eyeballed that one and took off a little bit of each one at a time. So this is still fine on the hot side, but the cold side is going to be a lot more precise. And not that it matters in which side is better, because ideally we'd like them both to be perfect, but at least we got one to how we want it. I'm gonna go ahead and mock this up, and I have one plate already cut out that was a scrap, and it's just like maybe 1/4 of an inch off of what I wanted it to be. But given the fact that now we've shaved some down, I might be able to use this instead of just throwing out this perfectly good piece of aluminum. Okay, so that extra plate did come in handy. It is just a hair longer than what we want it to be. But that's completely okay, because once we tack this on and start to get it welded, we can just shave this piece right there, and it'll still be able to like reuse this piece instead of throwing it away. That being said, I have some tape holding up the front plate, same on the back plate right there. 2 pieces of tape here holding the top plate downwards, using gravity to kind of hold it into place. And then a piece of tape right there and right there, kind of just holding it into where I want it for tacking it. One thing that I do want to show you guys real quick, when welding this thick of a plate, I know it's not super thick, it's just an 1/8 of an inch, but still, I like to let it overlap just a tad. Instead of being like this and just welding the outside, I like to go like this and being able to weld between both plates. So what I'll do right here, I'll tack it and then knock this portion out just a tad, and then be able to weld it between those two pieces. And then on the inside, I'll also still get good adhesion. I think it works a little bit better. I've seen people do similar stuff on other plated type of projects, not specifically on intercoolers, but I'm sure that the same structural strength thing applies. I'm gonna go ahead and put the welder, or turn the welder on. I'm gonna ground out the welder, probably on this plate right here, and then just start tacking it. It's like 1 a.m. right now and I'm editing. Notice this next clip when I'm tacking everything on. After the first tack, I take the ground off and I place it on the weight plate, and I forget to put it back on. It still grounded it, but there's like a spark at the beginning of the second tack. Just keep it in mind, it's pretty funny. Not a pretty tack, kind of doing it upside down, but it's on there. Okay, so I took off the driver's side end tank, the hot side. That's off. I'm just gonna flip this over right now and measure out what size I need for the plate right over here. So I can get a nice plate right there, exactly how I need it. So for that, I have my ruler. Start right here. We have about 6.5 inches on the dot. 6.5 inches right there, perfect. So that's probably gonna sit, since it is 1/8 of an inch, it's probably gonna sit right over this lip right here, which is fine. Because like I said, for this side, we're also gonna be grinding that down, so that's not a problem. I'm trying to think ahead of time, because I'll need to put the pipe right here to actually weld on, so I can have the connection for the cold side piping. I'm trying to think, once I have this, will I be able to weld it in from the inside? I'll probably be best at least measuring it and then see how my axis will be with a torch. But for right now, let me go ahead and cut out a plate for this right now. All right, so I've got the top and the bottom plate already on there. I left this open for the time being for when we weld this on. The back of the core is 2.5 inches from the weld on the traction bar on both sides, so it's nice and square. This is nice and close, is as perfect as it's gonna get. Obviously the coupler is gonna take care of any degree that's off or anything, but it should be more than perfect right there. Next thing that I'm gonna do, obviously this is not as short as we need it. That's about 3 inches from the top of the pipe down. And with one hand, let's see if I can get this on camera. See how much I need. We are about just under 2.5 inches away from the tank, the end tank, to the actual pipe. So we're gonna cut this down. If we're about 2.5 inches away, I'm gonna cut it down to about 2.25. I'll start with 2.5, and then if anything, I'll shave down a little bit more. But I wanna get this to sit right about there, and then go from there. Got it cutting right there. One thing to note before anybody says it in the comments, because I'm sure you will. Yes, there is the bead already on here, so it's not sitting 100% flush, sitting at a slight angle, but there's enough extra meat that we're gonna be using the bandsaw to take care of, or the sand table, belt sander, whatever it's called, to actually make it nice and smooth. And another thing, this is gonna sit in a recessed hole inside of the end tank. So that actual end tank is gonna let you adjust a little bit higher or lower as needed. Put it to the perfect spot on the end tank, mark which plate was up for reference, since it is offsetted with how the piping is gonna sit. traced it around with just a 3.5 inch like we were going to be using. I have my 3.5 inch hole saw right there. Found the center. Now with the punch, very simple, just like we did on the other side. Give it a nice little punch. I like to do about 3 or 4. Yeah, and yeah, let's get to drilling. Hole is drilled, and when you bring up the pipe at the angle that I want it, it's pretty good. Obviously there is some excess in the hole, recessed in it. Like I mentioned earlier, there would be. So what I'm gonna do right now with a little Sharpie, just trace it around as best as I can. It's pretty snug in there, so if I take the tape off carefully, it's not really gonna move. But what I'll do is I'll mark it all with Sharpie, and then cut it down to that size exactly, or near to it at least. It's not too much to take off, it's just a little bit, and you can see it's kind of at an angle because I'm using one that I cut at an angle. So it's just perfect for us. You can see this right side is a little bit taller than this, but it's still enough for us to get a nice clamp on there, so I'm not worried about it perfectly. You can see right there, the clamp still fits perfectly under the bead, so it's not gonna be an issue right there. Got it tacked up on 4 corners, and it fits very, very close. Not perfect, but I'm happy with that. Can't complain. Gonna go ahead and pull this tank off real quick again. Very simple, had it mocked up with some tape as I normally do. And this will be good. Well, it's super hot right now, so I just burned my fingers. But I'm gonna go ahead and start welding this up. I'm gonna start by trying to weld the inside of the exit right there, just because I think it's gonna be the hardest. And then I'll go for the other corners, and then I'll add the plate at the bottom and try to get the bottom welded in as well. But yeah, looking pretty good. Pain to get in there. You can see I got some areas that were decent, other areas that were a little more nasty. Right there, it's a little dirty, but it's still penetrated all around. All of it really penetrated without an issue. And I wanted to get the inside welded up first, and then I'll do the outside after. I don't know why, but that's just how I felt like doing it. Now I'm gonna do the other edges, or the other inside corners and whatnot. I think these are gonna be a lot easier to do than this, because right here you're doing a circular motion, and I really gotta get that stubby kit, because it sucks using this long tungsten and like not being able to get the right angle. So it's all good. I'll just try to do these right now and hopefully keep on trying, keep on practicing, you know? Side is completely welded on the tube as well as the all the little panels. Now I'm gonna start welding on the outside a little bit. I haven't made this plate yet. I'm probably gonna make that in just a little bit, but for now I just wanted to weld the other parts. There's just 4 long welds like that. I turned off the machine because I had been welding the whole inside for like 20 minutes. And this is getting really hot, and I'm sure the machine needs a break as well. So I'm gonna let it rest for a couple minutes and then get back to it. Here we go, that was the last bead. Not perfect, but we're getting there, boys. Definitely a lot better than it was yesterday. Just got this plate made up for it. Fits pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty close. Okay, so now it's just wedged on the back piece right there. But remember how there was that little lip right here? It actually fits right against it. Sorry, it's super hot. I just got done cleaning it up. Essentially, it'll be pretty much as flush because this will be right over and that'll be right over. It shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. I'm gonna go ahead and tack it in multiple spots, and then I'm gonna weld it from the inside. And yeah, should be good after that. So we got the top portion fully welded in. You can see the welds came out pretty good. Now there was a problem when I welded the inside, it got super hot. So you can see that there are some like cavitation areas. It still penetrated fully around it, it's just got too hot, and it doesn't aesthetically look good or whatever. But it came out okay. The inside, it looks atrocious. There's no room to actually get a good angle. I really need a stubby kit. That's like the 5th time that I've said that in this video. But hopefully I'll order one tomorrow or something. I'm gonna let this cool down right now. Maybe wait like 20-30 minutes so it's fully cooled down. And then I'll be like wiping it down with acetone and whatnot, get the final wipe. And then do the final test fit, tack on 4 corners, the actual cores onto the actual end tanks onto the core. And then, yeah, we can start fully welding up the tanks onto the core. We're pretty much all set on the fabrication aspect of the intercooler. All right, guys, so I attempted to start welding this onto the core. And like I always say on the channel, I show you when I do good and I show you when I do bad. Look at this awful stuff that I did right here. I'm gonna have to clean all that crap. But yeah, then I finally got it tacked up. Got it tacked up in some places. I was trying on way too cold. Like I was on 140 amps. Like basically what I was using the max for the end tanks or whatever. Making them, I was in between 110 to 140. I figured I could just beat up 140 on here and then have it roll over to the core. Core is so much thicker. I have it full on 200 just to get this stuff right here. I'm sure that once I like get into a puddle and a good path, and the 200 will be enough. But gosh, this was awful to weld. I blew that out right there. Big mistake. I got the top 2 tacks on there. It's fully on there solid. And this is on the bottom anyway, so you're not gonna see it that much. But man, I just went through, I got my butt kicked by this. Let's just leave it at that. It was awful. Huh?
When you do this, hit this more than this.
Hit the core more, right?
Yeah, heat this up.
My machine didn't work too well on high amperage. Kept on tripping the breaker.
Got over here Pablo, FP prepping up for any.
All right, there's my side. Not as nice as his, but it's on there. Mine versus Dirty's. Damn, Papi. That's great. Just got done with this one right here. On continuous bead. It's better than the first one I did on the core. This one I think he did part of it that I messed up and he fixed it. Yeah, there we go. The cooler is completely wrapped up. We're all done with that. Shout out to Dirty for letting me use the machine. Now he's working on some exhaust right now. Up pipe, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's skip forward to, I think this is just like 2 days in the future. I just wanted to show you the final result of the intercooler. A big shout out to Dirty Fab for letting me come over and use his machine at the shop. My machine, like I mentioned, it wasn't getting hot enough. We ended up welding the end tank to the actual core at about 220 amps the whole way through. And let's see, I think this is the one that he initially did to show me how to do it. And then this was the weld that I did directly after that. And this one was the last one that I did. And you guys can see that in the previous clip. Came out a lot better than what I've been doing before. But he was actually able to help me with a few spots that I had messed up on. And he showed me the ropes and whatnot for like the sticker stuff. So huge shout out to him. I started doing the blow-off valve placement, which I'm putting right here. I did mess up though. On this side right here, it's not pretty welds, but it's on there. Then right here, I blew out a hole, and instead of cleaning it and actually fixing it, I just kept on chasing the hole. So I'm not sure if I want to cut this out yet and do a nice piece, or just grind this down, just make it nice and smooth and then weld over it, or I'm not 100% sure, but that's for later. The main thing I want to show you guys right now, look at this polish. I've already put it on my Instagram, but it is literally mirror finish. And right now it's a little dirty because it's been sitting, but I did that on both sides of the end tanks as well as the intercooler piping. And like I said, it's been sitting right now. It's got some smudges on it and everything, but it's really nice aside from that right there. But I think I have it right here, what I was using. I want to show you guys. Right, so this is just very simple. Mother's mag and aluminum polish. Brought that stuff to life. On some portions, I did use some sandpaper where it was a lot more rough. We actually did 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and 3,000. But then if it was a nice clean piece of aluminum, like when we ordered the new aluminum plating for this side, basically with some 3,000 grit and then straight to the mother's polish, it came out perfect. But yeah, guys, there she is. Basically, the turbo kit's almost done. All we need after this is to redo the fabrication on the exhaust, which is going to be wastegate right there. Then the pipe for the turbo, which I'm not 100% on placement yet, but we definitely got something good in the works for that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. My favorite thing so far would be the polishing and whatnot, and I'm super stoked about it. If you guys are new to the channel and haven't already subscribed and want to see more about this car, as well as all the other builds on the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and go check out the other videos. And we'll see you on the next video, guys. Peace.